right, welcome everybody. It is the Darien Sewer Commission public hearing and regular meeting agenda of Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019 at 4:32 p.m. in room 206 of Darien Town Hall. The first thing we will do is make a motion to go into public hearing, or we just start?
I'll make a motion, we go into public hearing.
Second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're officially now in a public hearing. The public hearing is for proposed amendments to the Town of Darien Code, Appendix C, Administrative Regulations, Article 11, Sanitary Sewer Regulations, Section 1000-6.2. And I will read the legal notice. Legal notice of public hearing, September 3rd, 2019. Notice is hereby given, the Town of Darien Sewer Commission will hold a public hearing in accordance with Connecticut General Statute 7-255 on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019 at 4:30 p.m. in room 206 of Darien Town Hall, located at 2 Renshaw Road, Darien, Connecticut 06280. For the purpose of affording the general public and sewer user ratepayers of Darien an opportunity to be heard concerning proposed amendments to the Town of Darien Code, Appendix C, Administrative Regulations, Article 11, Sanitary Sewer Regulations, Section 100-6, Service Charges. Now we get down to the brass tacks. Current sewer service rates are user fees. Current sewer service rates or user fees are $5.65 per 100 cubic feet, and a minimum charge of $219.55 per year for any property connected to the sewer. The proposed increase being considered is up to 8%. All members of the public are invited to be present, will be given an opportunity to be heard on this matter. With that, shall we ask if there's anyone from the public wishing to comment on the potential sewer user rate change?
Well,
yes, sir.
I think you ought to announce what that would be at 8%
Okay,
compared to what it is now.
sounds good.
Like
like
$6.10.
Wait a minute.
You didn't do this one, Bob?
No, I didn't.
About 43 cents.
This was a bonus
Yeah.
question.
So it's 610 all told, I think, versus 565.
Okay, we'll make sure we're right.
Yes, by all means.
1.08 equals 610, yep.
Okay, so that would potentially mean an increase from $5.65 per 100 cubic feet to $6.10 per 100 cubic feet.
Do we have a minimum increase there? What's the minimum?
And, yeah, I
Did the
figured
minimums stay the same, or that go up?
That goes up the same.
223.12, I think.
219.55 times 1.08 equals 237.11.
Is it? Should have stayed with my number, folks.
I think they have to lockstep, yeah. I mean,
237.
Oh, yeah, they,
yeah,
that's
wouldn't
right.
be fair to do one without the other.
1.08 times
Yeah.
219.55
Okay.
equals
My goal is to have the minimum charge every
237.11.
year.
237.
237.11 cents. Good, okay.
Percentages.
Then it's certain numbers,
Oh,
like
okay.
605, 610, 20, so you see
Yeah.
the percentages are, and the minimums are figured out too.
Great, thank you very much. The increase in the minimum charge would be from $219.55 up to $237.11. All right, show of hands, anybody here to speak on this particular public hearing tonight? Yes, sir, please come to the podium. Let us know your name, your address, and provide your testimony, please.
Thank you. My name is Rolf Obin. I live at 9 Archer Lane here in Darien. I was going back through some of the minutes from the prior year when this also came up for a review. And as I recall, there was an increase at that time that was approved for somewhere around, I think, 2%.
3% is my recollection.
3%?
Yeah.
Okay. And also during the course of last year, I think there was a change made where the time period that was being referenced for the approximation of use was put into a 5-month period when usage was not as heavy, like during the spring, summer, when people are sprinkling their lawns and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we're trying to come up with a better way to not count irrigation and exterior use of water, and it was precipitated by Aquarion's change from quarterly billing to monthly billing. The monthly billing giving us better, more accurate data to be able to go to a monthly system. So the idea was to create a more equitable way of calculating the fee, focusing on domestic use.
Right, okay. So, I was listening into your last meeting where there was discussion about proposing this increase that's before us today of between 6 and 8% was originally discussed. And I couldn't help but notice that there was discussion about how the numbers were such that it was kind of dictating that you had to move in this direction. So I'm here more just to ask what happened where last year rates were, if you will, stabilized, whereas today we're looking at 6 to 8% increase, which is significantly different than where we were this time a year
Fair
ago.
question.
It's a fantastic question, and it's one that you deserve an answer to, as does everybody. And we'll be talking about it more. I'll give you some answers now, but we'll also be talking about it more through our deliberations. So, first off, last year when we looked at the budget, the projected numbers suggested that we should have a rate increase of 6 or 7% last year. And we have a little bit of money in our reserve account, and I was probably lobbying not to go up 6 or 7% last year because I wanted to see how the new rate system worked. I was comfortable taking a little money out of the reserve account if we needed to, and let's go up a measured amount, 3%, and kind of see what happens over the next year. That's my recollection of the decision made last year. So we may have lowballed it a little bit last year, but we did so in a considered fashion, knowing what we were doing. Since that time, water use didn't rebound after the drought. So since we are only billing based on the amount of water that people use, when people use less water, that's kind of our grand list, the mill rate has to go up. So water use was still down. It didn't rebound as much as we might have hoped. So that's one reason. We just don't have as much revenue based on the way that we calculate. The other are expenses. There's kind of two rounds of expenses I'll talk about. One is, I would say, the primary reason for what we're doing this year. The other is making sure we don't fall farther behind for expenses that we might need in the future. And that is really the cost of the city of Stamford treating our effluent. So everything that we collect ultimately ends up over at the treatment plant in the city of Stamford. We were renegotiating our 5-year contract with them, which has now been signed and finalized. And their operation continues to be an expensive one, and they continue to invest money in it. And we really don't have much of a choice because they're the only game around for people that want to treat our wastewater. The negotiations are always protracted. This one took a year, and it was really just a renewal. And we go through their budgeting and accounting with a fine-tooth comb. We're always wary of them attributing extra costs to Darien as a convenient alternative.
Yes.
And so we, and Ed does a phenomenal job at this, really task them on each line item.
So Ed is like our auditor?
Yeah, I would say. That's a good way to say it. We don't just accept what they give us. We open it up. We go through every line item. We question. And most of the time, we come to a fairer solution. Sometimes fairer solution means lower cost to us. Sometimes a fairer solution means a higher cost to us. And so one of the items that the city of Stamford picked up on this year, other than just general background growth in their budget, was kind of two. But one, there's two sub-areas of town that have been flowing into Stamford, and we have not metered the amount of water from those two sub-areas flowing into Stamford, and we kind of just lumped them in to, we're giving you all our water, and here's what the fee is based on. And so they focused on that pretty hard this year, saying, well, we're going to resolve this. We need to know exactly how much water that is, and we're going to charge you for it. And it's not an insubstantial sewer shed. So basically, the city of Sanford is going to charge us more, and we got to cover the bill. That I think is one of the major things that we're anticipating. That's still yet to be finalized because we'll find out tonight, but hopefully the meters are on. I don't know, but to actually quantify that sewage that's going there. And I don't know if the second thing is related to Stanford. Kind of lost my train of thought there a little bit.
Proactive on the
I&I, that's exactly it. So you'll hear us probably talk more and more over the coming months about inflow and infiltration, I&I, in short-term parlance for sewer system managers. And I&I is a problem with all sewer systems. It's basically any water that gets into your sewers that's not sewage, right? So it could be rainwater flowing through a gutter, or getting into a manhole lid, or getting in an improperly cross-connected catch basin.
A sump pump.
This could be a sump pump. Could be groundwater getting in through leaky pipes or leaky structures. Could be floodwaters getting into the system in times of heavy rainfall. All of which doesn't need to go to a treatment plant, doesn't need to be paid for and go through that process. It could just run off into our rivers and groundwaters. So the amount of I&I that we have flowing in our system has gone up by small incremental amounts each year. As the system ages, tends to get a little bit more water in. For whatever reason, it looks like on a per mile system basis or a per gallon system basis, the percentage of I&I that Stanford has is actually lower than the percentage of I&I that Darien has. So whether it's their new construction that helps it out, or how they're maintaining their system helps it out, we're actually paying a fair amount of money for clean water to be treated. So we're going to be moving forward with some pretty diligent studies and maintenance programs to get that number back down. But that's going to require money. Now, that money, at least in the near term, we're thinking is more appropriately comes out of the capital reserve accounts and things like that, not necessarily on annual ratepayers, but we're going to kind of balance that as we go. We're comfortable using some of that capital money, but again, we don't want to follow.
And at some point, you have to replace those reserves, do you not?
Yes, because you never know. You could have the what-if scenario. We got Dorian, things like that happen, and you need to be prepared for them. So that's a very good point. But even so, again, Ed prepared the budget for the coming year, and I think based on straight budget, if we were going to try to cover every dollar of the budget, the percentage increase in the sewer user fee would be up towards
1612.
Yeah, really that high?
Yep, wow.
I don't remember that.
I calculated it last month. It would be
Higher.
16.12%.
I remember the
I don't
discussion
think
from
that's-
the last
I did
meeting.
not put that number in there for you to look at, but it's 16%. So from 0 to 0.
So, again.
So you're talking about half of what the numbers really say
I guess so.
in today's proposal.
Yes.
And just as a point of reference, last year we raised it 11 cents. We went from 554 to 565, which was actually 1.98%.
Yeah. And it was
Yes.
2%. Okay, so you were right. My recollection was wrong. Thank you very much. And the previous 4 years, we didn't raise it at all. So we're very focused on it. We have a little bit of a cushion, but it does look like we're going to be in a cycle of increases for a little while. Now, knock on wood, the hope is that once we get into the teeth of our I&I program, that we knock down the amount of water that we're sending to Stanford, and thus knock down how much they charge us for it, and hopefully get a return on our investment for what we spend.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the response. I understand it much better.
Okay. Thank you for coming and thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Raise your hand if you have any testimony to provide on our potential rate increase for this year. Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Any further discussion on closing the public hearing? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is now closed.
Do you want to deliberate on that or move on?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're now opening our regular meeting, calling it to order at 4:47. Item 2 is discussion and action on the rate increase.
Okay.
So I have a cheat sheet in front of me. I guess it's a newer version. I thought there was one in here.
There is one in
There
here.
is one in here. Yeah, it's similar, it's just it's got a few more options in it.
I broke it down.
Yep. We are looking at, referencing our previous conversation, payments to Stanford of $2.68 million for next year. And then total expenditures between their payments to Stanford and our own costs of $3.9 million. And I guess,
Wait a minute,
I'm sorry, this
this
is
year?
last year, I'm
All
sorry,
right.
this is last year. So last year, we moved, or the projection is that we're gonna move about $375,000 from the reserve to cover our expenses. I'm reading that right now.
Yep.
Okay.
2.9? Shaded box?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the fourth one now.
Yep.
Craig, if I, can I
Please do.
You hit on a couple topics, but I do want to point out that you see the blue shaded area to the lower left?
Yes.
You'll see that our actual water use went down from last year, and I want to point that out because we kind of thought there'd be a kind of a small increase each year to kind of get us back, maybe not to where we were, but closer. I don't think any of us saw it going back down again.
So it went down 3%.
So it went down 3%.
Got it.
That's one of the items.
Do you think that's partly because the billing cycle was structured differently? Or is it
Could be.
more just
It
actual
could be.
usage and rainfall?
No, it could
I-
be. We also predicted when we redid the numbers that there'd be a $20,000, $25,000, I mean, that doesn't make up the big
Yeah.
difference,
Yeah.
but there was a difference there too.
Yeah.
The-
When we redid the rates, we had done a quick
had a year.
analysis to figure out if just changing the system
Yep.
was gonna be a significant negative. And it was a negative, but it was a negative to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
you know,
nothing substantial.
Nothing substantial.
But these little things are starting to add up a little. The other piece that you need to understand on is how I figured what our payments to the city of Stanford would be.
Yes.
They had some metered flows. I took those metered flows to use them to figure out what additional flows we would get through the metered. And I used that to come up with a number. And then I shaved it back like 10%. I usually let myself get caught up. I'd rather pay you later than have them hold our money to a credit. It seems that once the meters have been put in, we did get some results, and I can give you just a couple numbers right now. Is one of the daily flows for Heather and for Lake, Heather was 125,000 for one day. Do the math, and that's 0.12 MGD. They were, the graph that we used in the city of Stanford was 0.4 MGD, so a little bit higher. So when I did, to refigure and check this.
0.04.
Wait a minute, yeah.
Yeah,
You said .04, so 40,000 as opposed to 125,000.
no. No,
Which one's
we
lower?
Figured 0.4.
400,000.
400,000.
Okay,
So
So
it's,
they were a little higher.
they were high.
They were
That's what we
higher.
were hoping.
The
That's what
estimate-
we were hoping for, so I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
Our numbers may be a little bit higher, but this is all guesstimate until we go
Yeah.
through a full cycle of seasons.
So that was their budgeted number
That was,
baked
that was
into
the
the whole
numbers they came
thing?
to the table with when we started talking about adding them in. If you look at the contract, our minimum, our maximum flows for a day or set off of these things also. And we have an opportunity to go back and look at them, but just so you understand where I came up with the numbers.
You
Then
used
went
that.
back and checked them. I'm comfortable where we're sitting.
So our first data point suggests that your budget is conservative.
Yes.
Um,
The other piece I want to throw in is the nitrogen credits. And that's where I took the 10% off of that.
yeah.
I was looking at number 2 you. So I'm
So you have-
conservative.
Okay, so you have, assumed you are gonna get some money back for nitrogen credits,
Yeah.
but, 90%
I
of
didn't
the
take full
current
credit.
value.
Do they fluctuate in the market? Is
Oh,
that
yes.
why?
Big,
Yep.
from like 0 to 2 million, it's like.
Okay, if people are short, they,
It fluctuates with the other tenants too.
got it.
Yep.
So there's a secondary market, yeah, yeah, totally, get it.
So I just wanted to give you those 3 points.
Yep.
Lake was 60,000 gallons.
For the public,
point
if there's
zero.
anyone interested, I will say, just to mention nitrogen credits. To the extent that Stanford's treatment plant performs very well and is reducing nitrogen more than it needs to by state requirements, they can sell then leftover credits to WPCA's and treatment plants that are exceeding their nitrogen allowance. And so this past year, they did just that, and we got a couple $1 million from other towns as a part of that kind of.
And that's every year? It
Trade
rolls over
program.
day one per year?
Yeah, it starts over, clock starts over for the year. Yep.
That's cool.
Anything else, Ed?
No, that's it. Just wanted to give you those 3 points.
So are those, what you just talked about, you're saying is taken into credit, into credit?
Well, not the real meter
The-
data yet. That's
So
not
the-
reflected in the budget numbers.
So the,
Bigger
For the-
assumed meter data is in the budget numbers.
Right.
so the 2.7 is, you're saying is the high?
Well, that's last year, so,
No, that would be the projected 20,
where?
FY '20
oh, there it is. Yep, gotcha now.
of the 2.7 to go to Stanford. That-
I'm gonna tell you that the 2.7 is. .27 is a little bit below the projected at 2.8. So like I said, I usually shave a little bit right off to see how the readings in the years go by.
And the credits? Well,
Yeah.
The credits are,
yeah.
so.
So bottom, what's a good bottom line here? Total expenses for last year were 3.9.
Okay.
Total projected budget for this coming year is
I-
$1,037,000.
Yep.
Working on some math.
Okay.
So we got 610.
Not very well. I like my calculator better than mine.
What are you trying to,
Trying to get at what percentage that is. That's only 3. All right, so now we've got to make a decision. So we had talked about up to 8,
yep. Just-
which would be 610. Options available to us, I think, I sensed consensus last time of at least 6%, which would be $6. So I think our window is somewhere between $6 and $6.10. Everybody kind of agree with that? Okay.
Yes.
Anyone feel strongly one way or the other about the planning decision that we should take here?
Well, one of the questions I had, and I went and asked Ed, is, the minimum and the rate seem to move lockstep percentage-wise, but the minimum to me seems like a hell of a great deal, to have the ability to have this infrastructure available for, and I try and hit the minimum on my little house, and I used to be able to on some of the other properties, but can't anymore. I'm just curious how those relate, and where we came up with the minimum versus the rate. Is it historical that we started at $100 and it just, they both went up at the same time, or how's that figured?
I figure it as, it's your,
I can't tell you exactly how they came up with it, but I can tell you that
They've always moved.
it was tried to be increased to make the minimum equal to the well rate, which is the average.
Yep.
And previous commission shot it down.
And I asked
Yeah, sure.
Ed what the actual revenue difference would be, and it's not much. It doesn't add up to a great deal, which surprised me.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people below the minimum.
Right,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, exactly. So that the equity part, there may be people not even using it. You know, if the house is
Yeah.
offline or something and they're still paying.
And that's really,
Again, we always wrestle
What
with
is
equity.
581,606 times 6.1?
But I wanted to bring it up, that I asked
I just wanna
Ed to
know what
run
the
the numbers,
revenue
if that, the minimum alone went up, how much does it move the needle? And it doesn't. It's a little bit.
I mean, I do,
610.
I think I've been consistent in my desire to do our best to keep the incentive and disincentive for using water in the hands of the consumer.
796.
Right, so that there is, you know, you're not paying an average rate of $500. If
So
you
we
can
would then
Yeah,
have
get it
be
lower.
a one-person
Right.
household or be
305.
really conservative with water use, you can get it down.
Yep.
Way down.
No,
know,
if
the
things
220
remain
instead
the
of
same.
550 or whatever it is.
And
So I just wanted to throw that out there, that's
Yeah.
one thing that I looked at and asked Ed to, think about.
Is your needle that minimum should be lower or higher?
No, it would be
for-
higher, because of the value added to the home
Yeah.
of somebody who has a sewer versus not, and not having to replace a septic or hire an engineer to design a septic. It's an incredible value imbued with the property that adds value for
Yeah.
redevelopment, et cetera, versus properties that aren't sewered. And that seems like a very reasonable price to pay, just even have that. But it doesn't change the budget that much, and they seem to always have been
Yeah,
moving the
exactly.
same. So that's why I asked the
You gotta get
history.
another $20 from.
Yeah, it's
you know,
not,
100 people or whatever.
but again, we're asking people to pay more, so anything we can
Yeah.
look at from
Well,
an
at
equity
this
standpoint.
point, we're stuck with up to 8% because that's what we've been advertising.
No, I get it. So I would be inclined to include 6 to 8.
So you're in that window?
Yep.
Do you feel strongly at 6 or 8?
I would actually feel more strongly at 8.
Yeah.
Bob?
I can live with anything over 6.
Pete?
But on Reese's point, and you guys will know where I'm going without me even saying any further, but that's why that same idea that it's a great deal is why I keep going back to the single meter buildings that have multiple living dwellings inside them.
We looked
I
at it, I
don't-
think before you came on, we looked at it. I actually own 2 units in an 8-unit building. When I ran the numbers with Tamara, realized that we were underpaying, and when our building was changed to total usage, commercial bill, just for equity's sake. Now, if they do revert back to apartments, it'll actually be the benefit of the building owner. So in some cases, it's hard to figure out, Bob. It's not as clear cut as you think it is, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I think we're not, my sense from our past discussions, and I hear you on creating an equitable system, is that it's a lot of work introduced, and there wasn't, to me, clear proof that the number was gonna be much different, right? That the minimum was kind of.
It was so close.
Yeah, it was close
But in our
for
case,
apartment
the
buildings.
building that I'm part of, there was a difference, and we switched it the other way. Single bill, water use. And I didn't have a problem doing it with the other owners. It was no big deal.
Well, there is if there's empty units that are sitting there.
Well, there's 2 dentists that use a bazillion gallons of water, and the other people don't. So I actually pay much more now. I'm not a dentist.
Yes, but I'm saying,
Specific.
if you have 16 units and you only have 3 that are occupied, and they're, total doing their minimums, that means you have
That's not a good landlord.
you have 13 units there that are not,
Yep.
that have the instantaneous ability to use the system,
Right.
but are not paying for it. And I don't think that's fair and equitable, in my opinion.
So.
And then if you're adding up those, then it does make a
Okay,
difference.
so we're in the middle of a public hearing that's been noticed, and we didn't say we were gonna change the minimum charge, and we didn't say we were gonna change how the minimum charge was gonna be applied to multi-tenant properties. So I'm gonna dial us back.
That's
We
fine.
can continue that conversation for the future. So, you were okay as long as we're 6? Pete,
Yes.
do you have a strong opinion between 6 and 8, or 6 or 8?
I think it ought to be toward 8 because I keep
Enough
seeing
dark clouds on the
a
horizon.
growing deficit
Mhm.
And when you start sliding that way, sometimes it's hard to stop.
Yep. And we could always put on brakes if we go too far.
I mean, the goal is if the I&I works, our use will go down, Stanford bills will reduce in the future. And we have some immediate expenses that,
But that, yeah, but
I mean,
that's
that's the
in the
goal.
future.
yeah.
And
And then we don't have
unfortunately-
increases at some point for many years in
You
inflation.
Like we did
said for
again.
4 years you didn't have
Right.
increases, so you
That's
could
right.
do that, increase it now.
Yeah.
And then not have increases in
You
the
know,
future. That would be what I would do.
we hope. I mean, if the I&I worked, we'd probably
You think
keep
that's
a
wishful
plateau
thinking?
rate for a while, you know?
I
I
think
just,
it's something that we're going to reach inevitably, yeah. I think we're going to see a reduction in our flows overall, if you will, somewhere between 15 and 25%.
You are optimistic about
I am.
our.
I saw the
I&I.
results in other towns.
Yeah.
I saw the flows and how much they dropped,
Yeah.
just going after the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
I have to say that I am optimistic. But it's going to require a lot of work and some capital investment.
Right.
Of substantial capital investment to get there.
So in the past, I have noted the total in our reserve balance, which I think is at the bottom of page 2 here.
Yes.
So our reserve balance as of July 15th, 2019 is $3.75 million, correct? Get that number right? That's all.
As of 7/15/19, well, it's 4,800,000, wait a minute, 4,087,000, I'm on the second page of the sheet we got today, bottom left column.
Oh, yeah, that's different than the one I'm looking at.
But
And you
the-
and you just handed me one? It's a little bit different than the one in the packet.
You had asked for an update?
I did.
After the removal of the balance or the subtraction from the fund balance,
Which way did it go?
it had to go down.
Okay, because you
Because
moved
we
the money
had to
out.
pay for last year's
Yeah.
balance
I
at
got
the end of the
it.
year.
Okay, so it's not the number you're looking at, it's the number I cited, 3.75.
Yep.
I apologize, I should have printed those out for all.
That's right. Which, in the past, I've said, I feel like that's heavy. I don't think we should have that much money lying around. It's not ours to have sit in the bank.
Can I make one point on that?
Yeah, you may.
I believe that while you look at the bottom line, I think the real true balance is the top number, because
Is
the
the
other
sewer
ones
fund
are,
balance.
is the sewer fund balance, because the other ones are earmarked for things that need to be done. So I don't believe that the bottom line is what we should be looking at. We should be looking at the sewer fund balance, not the
Right.
total.
Yeah.
I'm gonna semi-agree with Bob.
What's the semi part?
The first two lines.
First two lines.
First 2 months, because Bob, the designated for capital equipment, that's also a reserve balance also.
Okay,
The other ones are.
The other ones have been designated, as Bob
Yeah,
said,
right.
for specific projects or do specific work.
okay, so we're saying the balance is 3.4.
These guys.
3.4. Well, you have different numbers.
I have different numbers.
I have 269 and 727,
My
so
numbers, 'cause they're
mine comes out to 3.4.
316.
Oh, all right, all right, I'll change my opinion then. I'll say 8%.
But to narrate that sentiment, it was, you feel as though the sewer fund balance is at a normal level, we shouldn't be too much relying on it for annual costs, or the balance is shifting.
I think we're at a good, it's at a good level. It's, I don't believe it's too high. I believe if we're gonna go out there and do projects, and you need funds to be able to do them, and you have both a fiduciary responsibility to the town, and you have a moral responsibility to the town
Yeah.
to have a good collection system.
Absolutely.
Because where water is coming in, at times of low groundwater, water is also going out.
Well, we have some articles on that particular point on exfiltration, which we'd be happy to share with you. We don't think that's necessarily a problem that we're facing.
Okay.
But we really don't know.
We're gonna know a lot
What it's gonna
more.
cost to get to the point where we would
Well,
like
that's
to
true
be.
too. That's an excellent point.
You know, and that's,
I think the low-hanging fruit's gonna really be indicative though when we.
How much money are we gonna have to spend to really
Yeah.
effectuate the goals of the ISA?
We won't know that until
you
we start
spend it.
getting results back from our testing
Yeah.
and our camera work and kind of eyeballing the sections that need work and then putting a number to what has to be done to correct it.
Susan, fresh eyes,
Yeah.
fresh thoughts?
No, I agree. I think I would like to keep the reserve high. I think that's a good idea. So you're saying.
How do you feel about 6 versus 8? You're a ratepayer?
8.
Okay. Gentlemen, do you have anything? I didn't say anything. You know. You just
Oh,
know where I'm
you know
at. I'm a consensus builder. After everyone agrees with me, but
What, you guys have a bet going here?
well, I want to go back to these
I gave
guys.
him his chance, now it's mine.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to hear from you guys.
And I don't want to be the guy that you say every year you want to increase the rates, because the first couple of years here, I bought into we're okay with our budget, the flows to Stanford were stable, we had a good reserve, no reason to raise the rates. And in my opinion, if things go well enough to where this does turn around, and we are getting great results from our inflow in I&I studies, there's no reason to not go back to that. But I think we need to hold a good reserve. I think somewhere around 3 is a good reserve, 2 is a good reserve too, somewhere in that area. We don't know what's on the horizon with regards to our capital investments. We've already talked about possibly bonding it, possibly using some of our funds and partially bonding the rest. Those are all good options if you have a good reserve to use that. So, I'm not gonna tell you what my number is. I gave you an option, a menu to choose from. But I think we should hold on tight to our reserve right now until we get some numbers, possibly before the next time we meet to ever discuss a rate increase next year. We'll have some construction numbers in hand, hopefully.
So translation, if you voted, your vote would be on the higher end of the window,
It
not the lower
would be,
end.
it would be at this point, yeah.
Darren, do you have any input?
What do you say?
Can I make another point?
I'm with my boss.
May I make another quick mathematical point?
Have I ever been able to stop you?
The average residential use uses 8,900 CCFs. A 45% increase in that would equate to $40.13, which is 11 cents a day.
That puts a framework on it, but I think those
Yeah.
types of comparisons tend to be a slippery slope because everything adds up. There's always
Okay.
something to pay for. Look, I think I'm proud of our record so far of being very measured and doing our best to respect the ratepayers, but I think we can kind of see where the consensus is on how best to respect the ratepayers this year. So with that, can I have a motion?
I'll move it, 8% increase.
So.
To
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
$6.10.
I'll agree with that as well, right?
We're going to use this one. So so a 7.96% increase would be $6.10.
Let's do that.
Okay, that's your
I
motion.
make a motion to raise the sewer user rate fees to $610 per CCF.
$6.10.
And then the minimum rate
And the
would be.
minimum rate would be 237.11, I believe, is what we
Yes.
talked about before.
This one, I think you did the 796 to match the
Okay,
610.
so
just
the
read these.
minimum, the sewer user rate fee will be $6.10, and the minimum will be $237.04.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, all right, yeah, it's gonna be less because it's
Yeah.
9.6 instead of 8
Okay.
flat.
That's the motion.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second it. Oh,
I think Peter had it first before, so we'll give it to Peter.
It's a close call.
You got to work on your buzzer. Any further discussion on the motion to increase the sewer user fee rate to $6.10 per 100 cubic feet and the minimum property charge to $237.04? All right. right, hearing no more discussion, can I have a vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. Now back to our normal stuff. Minutes from August 6th.
Okay.
I abstain, I was not here and I have not seen the,
All right, wait a minute. Oh. It was actually 6.22%. I see the number in the minutes, and I forgot. Okay, page 6 of 8. Top paragraph, where it says, Mr. Hill asked how Pemberton 16 was handled. Mr. Hill knows how Pemberton 16 was handled. So Mr. Hill stated how Pemberton 16 was handled.
Who is this Mr. Hilliard?
And then down,
famous, you can refer to yourself in the third person.
just to clarify something, in section 10 there, Mr. Ostefine said that he had contracted the attorney involved for the applicant. I would say we want just to keep it as clear as possible there. Yes?
Was it for the applicant?
Yes,
Yeah, what?
I tried to contact the applicant, I never did get through.
but it's the attorney for the applicant, is what I was saying.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
did contact
For the, add
for
in.
the applicant.
Yeah, add in.
You're saying
Just-
for the applicant.
Yeah,
Yes,
just
add
so
the
that
three
it's as clear as possible.
In between attorney and involved.
Yes.
Yeah, I have nits. Do we go over nits or do we just hand those in?
You can hand them in.
Okay.
Unless there's anything you feel are
They're just
worth
like,
mentioning.
no.
And then, let's see,
Typos and grammar.
now we're
Yeah,
on
typos and grammar.
the top of page 7, where it says, Ms. Cameron moved to have, and it says Public Works, but that would be the sewer department send a letter to the property owner. I know that it's a
Yeah, yeah.
subsection, but
That's fine. You get that, Jaren?
Sewer department?
Yep.
Public Works.
You want to hand in your notes?
Yeah,
okay, and then top of page 8. The covers, wait a minute, that's right. The covers have been welded closed, good for doing. Mr. Hill said that someone stomped on the concrete on one of the tanks. Because it seems like one of the covers that you guys put in, that the hole's in the concrete, not in the covers, it's in the top of the tank.
Substitute the word tanks for cover.
Yes.
Yes, that second covers. And I'm good.
Anyone else? Peter, any corrections?
Nope.
Reese, any corrections?
I can't, I'm abstaining.
Oh,
Who wasn't here?
Susan's handing in.
Yeah.
All right, do I have a
English
motion
teacher?
to approve the minutes as amended?
you need a motion? I'll move.
Peter.
I'll make-
I'll make a motion.
A second.
We approve. It says amended.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Susan, all those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
And Reese
You
is
abstain.
abstaining.
yes.
Okay.
As well he should.
Item number 4. Sewer connection pro rata share, Robert A. Crane, 301 Mansfield Avenue, discussion and action.
And Craig, I'm
I
abstaining on
noticed
this.
that
What's happened?
Mr. Crane
I'm
and
out.
Builder
Okay.
Yeah.
and Empley are both here.
I didn't get to see the tapes. Darren, I didn't see the tapes on this, so I'm
What's
abstaining.
that?
I didn't get a chance to review this, the meeting. I was
Okay.
away, so I'm abstaining.
I can bring everybody up to speed, sort of. I still have not found any developer's agreement, although I'm sure one exists. I still did not find proof that this project was paid off, though I'm sure it was. I did contact Wilder Gleason, local attorney, who represented Mr. David Mixter. Did some research and found out that Mr. Mixter has in fact passed on, was living in Florida. Attorney Gleason gave me some information, was able to verify that that's the guy Wilder worked for. Let's see. I I was also able to verify that Wilder indeed did shred all of the records associated with that project. He keeps a detailed record of all the stuff that he decides to shred, and once it gets over 20 years old, he shreds it, but he keeps a log of all the things that he did shred. And he did confirm for us that everything to do with that project has been shredded. I did think about another project that was connected to the Mixter sewer, and it was the Kelly Farms LLC sewer, which Rick Gerard developed. And it connected to the sewer at the driveway of Oxford School. Now, there's a memo that I included in your package, item 4, 1 of 2, and it deserves a little explanation. When the sewer commission took the project over, when Public Works took over sewers, it was 1999. You can see that on the top part of that memo, there's a lot of dates there with records that were found, detailing the records that were found. And this is a memo from me to the file. I wrote it because in 2005, I realized that people were going to start connecting to the Gerard sewer, and we needed to have something in the file that talked about how much they would pay, who were the originally thought out people who would connect to that sewer. And you notice on the bottom, interestingly, I wrote a note. One of the things that a developer has to do is submit an affidavit of costs, which Rick Gerard did, and you can see from the top part that there were apparently more than a few affidavits of costs submitted. We finally settled on one. I don't think I even found an official meeting minute that said it was approved by the sewer commission, but there was one that we settled upon. But in the bottom of the memo, I mentioned that no place did Rick Gerard claim that he had a cost for paying David Mixter to connect to his sewer. I think the reason for that is because the Mixter sewer was already paid off. We also checked our financial records, but it doesn't go back that far. Our Munis system is only good for about 4 years. So it appears to support what I said. I understand the sewer commission is very eager to protect themselves from any future claims. So we had a couple of thoughts. Having Mr. Crane sign some sort of a note that would indemnify the town. I don't know if that's legal in perpetuity. Mr. Crane sells his house. I do believe the risk is very small. I regret that I don't have more definitive proof for you. That's what I found. And I did share these results with Mr. Crane, and he is here tonight.
May I ask a question?
Just announce yourself for the record.
Rob Crane, owner of 301 Mansfield Avenue. When we spoke a couple weeks ago, you'd mentioned you believed that several individual homes had connected, as well as that one project without a fee. I don't remember the specific addresses or if you had them
Individual
at that
homes
time.
connected to the Mixter sewer?
I believe so.
Yes.
Then they had not been charged a fee, or there was no evidence of a fee in those instances as
B.
well?
B. Unfortunately, we did check a couple of them, and there are a bunch. I mean, anybody between Peach Hill Road and the driveway to Oxford School is a part, if they're connected to the sewer, they're part of the Mixter sewer. Something weird went on. I'm just hypothesizing. It's possible that people paid Mixter directly. I can't say that for sure, but I can tell you when somebody does something now, for example, somebody connects to a Gerard sewer, we make sure that there's a cash transmittal attached to the lateral form. So anybody can come and say, yes, he paid the town, and the town paid the developer. Check that guy off the list.
Mr. Mixter has passed away, is that right?
Mr. Mixter has passed away. Made it to 90.
All right, now, does he have heirs that we know
Not that I'm aware of. His wife at the time predeceased him,
of? Uh-huh.
according to my research.
I mean, the issue is somebody gonna come out of the
Correct.
woodwork and say,
Where's my
hey,
10 grand?
where's my 10 grand?
Yes.
So the issue is, again, how do we protect ourselves in case Mr. X comes out of the woodwork?
Correct.
Well,
So there's two
I
Well,
mean,
he died
the
on
way-
28, 2015,
I mean, the legal,
Okay.
so the statement be settled.
I mean, the way you would do that, I don't know whether you'd be willing to do this, but if, as was stated, you know, if someone comes out of the woodwork, you have to pay it. And I don't know whether you'd
I
be
don't know
willing
what the legal
to do
term is
that.
there, but.
Illegal.
I had another thought.
Yeah.
Lawyer, you are, maybe you could speak better to this, but when we were looking for easements on a sewer project, I was tasked with reaching out to the homeowners. And our attorney wisely chose the other route for a portion of the road that was owned by a woman who was most assuredly deceased. She'd been born in the 1800s. She owned the whole farm before this road property was subdivided. Yet the portion of the road that was well-defined and private, the ownership of that road was never transferred. So our attorney did this maneuver, which I don't claim to understand, but you petition the court and advertise in the paper. If anybody has any claims, come
Actually,
and
quiet title.
make your
Yeah,
claims
quiet
now.
title.
What's it called?
Quiet title.
Okay, and a certain amount of time goes by, you go back and the judge bangs the gavel, and nobody has any rights to claim anymore. I don't know if that's something that would apply here or work, but it would maybe.
Well, sure.
protect-
So,
I
let me-
mean, that would work. The question is whether the issue then becomes, if you want to hook up now, which I presume you do.
What would the period of time be required for?
Well,
Longer than you're willing to wait.
That's a satisfactory answer.
I mean, by time.
Wrong one.
Well, that depends on,
It's
You know,
a,
that
my
depends
understanding is
on-
those actions take a while, and
Yeah.
you have to get, to file it, and it's gotta be heard, and it's gotta have a deadline, then you gotta go to public notice, and you gotta wait, and then you gotta.
but it costs money.
Yeah, it costs money.
Another-
So let me just.
Yep.
I think there's, the first threshold question is, do we say, one, history's murky, recollection of town staff is that everything's paid for, so we're just gonna let Mr. Crane connect, like we let everybody else connect when a developer's agreement is not overriding. We just say, fine, connect. Or do we continue to say that risk is not ours to take? You know, we need to find some satisfactory mechanism for the applicant to assume that risk in a reasonable fashion, right? So those are kind of A or B in terms of discussion options, I think, for us. So is there anybody on the just go ahead and connect side?
I have one other question before we.
Okay, fine.
And that is there anything in that original developers agreement that says that we are responsible for collecting the money?
We don't have the original road. That's the problem. We don't have the agreement.
I can tell you that our current developer agreements do. We, as a matter of practice, always have a paper trail. We take the money,
Yeah, I know.
we record it, and then when we write a check to the developer, so we have a record. If it's a pass-through and we just take the check from an applicant to the developer,
How many years was this? How many years old is that developer's agreement?
The development was 1987.
yeah, I was the inspector back in the mid-'80s, roughly.
80, 90?
You're still in high school, right?
Well, normally in a title search, you know, you feel very comfortable after you go about 40 years.
40?
Yeah. In other words, you know, if you do a title search, you go back 40 years. After that, you know, there aren't too many people around
Have you
to question it, so.
considered the idea of creating some sort of, again, I don't know what it is, note, promissory note, assumption of,
I could be willing to indemnify the town against the risk. However, it would have to be clear and have to have appropriate protections that they would have to prove a valid claim and be able to demonstrate that it was
Yeah.
still valid.
Oh, yeah.
You know, given that we have no documentation, I would want to be very careful about agreeing to something that commits me to paying something that's an unknown
Yeah.
Well,
at this point, which
I
is,
agree.
that's sort of my concern on
I
it.
mean, the point is, if you were to sell your property and you're
Yeah.
hooked up, right?
Mm-hmm,
Somebody's gonna go out and do a title search.
mm-hmm,
And, you know, if 40 years rolls around from the time that original
Yeah.
agreement and nothing turns up, the attorney representing the buyer would probably not ask you to, you know, give up any of your
mm-hmm,
receipts to fund
mm-hmm.
that obligation, okay?
Yeah.
So in other words, it would not act like a lien on that property for
Yeah.
that amount.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, what I would do,
Yeah.
if I were you, I would just make some little paper up.
Mm-hmm.
I really shouldn't give you this advice, but, and I'm not. And I'm just sort of saying
You're a sewer
what I
commissioner.
might do.
your sewer commissioner.
Yeah, I might put some little note together.
Yeah.
And let's see, if it was 85, 95, 2005, you know, you're very close to 40 years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll go by 4 or 5 more years, and after that, I wouldn't even worry about it.
Yeah.
So.
Because there's not going to be anybody around to,
Mhm.
I mean, it's just
Susan, you have a comment or
time.
I have a question. What's the dollar figure that we're talking about? Because whatever that dollar figure is, it should be reduced by the cost of the lateral, because you didn't provide a lateral, and that is a big problem for me.
Oh, all right.
Well, there is no dollar figure. That's
Yeah.
part of the concern about signing
Yeah.
a
I
theoretical
mean,
promissory
I'm
note.
Team Camp A.
Yeah. You're just saying the risk is so low.
I think it's so
Let's stop
low.
talking about it, because
Yeah.
if he generates some kind of note, we're gonna have Wayne Fox look at it. So we're gonna have a couple
Yeah,
$1,000
right,
worth of
right.
attorney's fees to pay to read this note.
I'm for
Just really trying to
let it-
avoid
let it go.
money transfer.
And if you do have a dollar figure, it has to be reduced by the cost, the current cost of putting in that lateral that
Well,
you never
that
provided.
would happen if, again, someone comes out of the woodwork,
Yeah.
says, wait, I'm an heir.
Yeah.
And I found the developer's agreement, and I found the receipts, and the town still owes us money, and you let this guy, you know, hook up for free, so I want my $10,000, whatever it is. And then they'd have to come here, and they'd say, here's why I should get my 10, and then you would tell them,
Unfortunately.
you don't get 10 because you didn't give this guy a
Right,
lateral,
you're asking
and he
him-
spent 10 on the lateral.
Unfortunately for the heir, he would spend more than he could collect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do
Okay.
that kind of work.
But leaving-
You're not gonna get this person coming forward after
Right.
2014 done.
And is there actually any evidence of an agreement at this point, other than
You're
recollection?
asking for a note.
Well, we
Note
we
has
know
to
there
have
was,
dollar
but no one
figure.
has found one
No.
or any evidence of it. And we know that Wilder shredded it.
Not thinking it was valuable at all.
So, okay,
So I'm in Camp
one
A.
option is A, one option is B. Anyone else?
I'm going to retract it, and there's only option A.
So he's back, we've convinced him.
I'm on
Good
board.
one.
He's a wise
This
man.
is done. This is,
Okay,
Momentum's looking very good here, Mr. Crane.
and the momentum still will, but I will still give my 2 cents. I don't believe that it's fair to the average homeowner that he's connecting for free. I don't believe that there should be no connection fees in the town of Darien.
oh,
Okay.
that's a bigger issue like
So-
the other one you want to talk
But
about.
it is, but it isn't.
So new-
It's
so new
gonna
business-
sway my
okay.
vote, let's put it that way.
So new business for next time, in the absence of a developer's agreement, there should be a connection fee
Right.
for
So
discussion on the next agenda.
along with condo
They're
units,
scribbling
should
it
pay a
down.
minimum,
Apartments.
apartments?
Okay, so.
Yes.
your
So
2
I'm
cents
done.
on this,
I'm
or that's
done.
not- Okay, so that's nothing to do with this, other than it's going to color how you're going to vote, but you're not going to tell us yet how you're going to vote.
I can't, I'm not voting. My vote would be to let it go. You want me to vote, Craig? I'll vote on this. I think it's absurd after all these years with insufficient data to even prove that it exists or the sewer isn't fully funded. This whole discussion's absurd. And the idea of opening a state from Florida in Connecticut within a state that may or may not have been taxed, which will be a 50% tax, once you add the attorney's fees and the small amount of money that would be available, no one's coming out of it.
So the risk is so infinitesimal, you're willing to assume
Right.
it.
Meteor insurance.
Right.
Yep.
It might be your lucky day. Do you have anything to add before I ask for a motion?
Unfortunately,
I'm
probably gonna
pleased that you're considering the motion you are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, anything that we should be considering before we
I think
try to sum this up?
Beating this one up pretty good. And Darren did his best to find whatever information he could. And
Yep.
show that the substantial information showing anything different. I think he's done his best on it.
All right, do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
What's the motion?
I'm not sure. Well, the motion
allow the
would be
connection.
that,
Period.
that a connection be allowed, right, with no fee being paid.
On
But
these-
not excuse, of course, the permitting fee.
Yes, yes. On the assumption that, in effect, the unfound developers agreement at this point either has been paid in full or is null and void.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Did you get my little clause amendment there?
Could you say again, the developers?
On the assumption that the unfound developers agreement is either paid in full or in effect null and void.
Paid in full or what?
In effect,
Null and
null
void.
and void.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All those abstaining? 3-1-1.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your work on that.
My pleasure, appreciate it.
Okay, what's the next fun one?
Good luck.
Good luck.
Item number 5, sewer user fee appeal, 33 Lynn Court, Marianne Guglielmo. Discussion and action, 5A. Yes, please come on up. Introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Marianne Guglielmo, and I reside at 33 Lynn Court.
And your sewer user charge went up notably in 2018. And your submission based on a leak. Has the leak been,
Yes, it was,
Fixed?
it was fixed the same day that I found out about it.
Okay.
Apparently
with an $8.98 part?
yeah, very cheap. It's like, I had, excuse me. I
fix it
had no
yourself?
idea. I mean, it was silent because the water was above, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, it was
when
going
goes
over
down
the-
the tank, so.
The fill tube.
Yep.
And, I had Aquarion come out, because when I actually came to the town hall for my taxes, and like, do you have a leak?
I see the up.
Do me a favor, Craig?
I haven't seen the down yet. Hold on. Where's the-
No, there isn't one, because it was
Oh, okay.
825.
Oh, okay.
But I have something that can cover that. But do me a favor, First, read on page 5A, 3 of 14. See the, now this is coming from Aquarian. Good afternoon, Mrs., I'm sorry,
Guglielmo.
Guglielmo. My last name's Hill, so I try not to screw up other people's since mine is so easy. Okay, it says per our and this has nothing to do with you. This is just me venting. Our tech confirmed an issue with the second floor toilet. The toilet was running and the pump in the toilet tank did not shut off.
Yeah, that's,
In all your years, have you ever heard of a pump in a toilet tank?
I hadn't, and I was wondering.
I'm
No,
going
there's
to
no
chalk that
pump.
up to a poorly qualified customer service representative.
But, I assume you don't know that much about toilets?
I don't.
So, and I hate to use the expression, but it's the uninformed following the uninformed. Luckily, you were able to find someone who understood what they were saying.
They fixed it.
But the fact that
You
it...
don't necessarily know if the problem's fixed, because you
No, I
You
don't.
know it was the toilet.
I don't.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that the tech, when he turned, if you read all this, he turned off
The water in the toilet.
the angle stop under the toilet, the valve under the
Yes.
toilet. He went back to the meter, and I'm hoping that the meter stopped spinning. I'm hoping that the tech was at least qualified.
Yes, that is what you're hoping.
And
We all
his-
hope that.
When he came to the house, when he looked at it, the first thing he said to me was, "You have a leak." And I'm like, "But I don't see any evidence of a leak," you know, and so we started with the bathrooms, you know, and he found it right away, and then he shut it off, and he went back down, and he said that was it.
Okay, so that's, but,
Judging by the payment history, judging by the water usage history, it's clear that at some point, starting in September of 2017, more water started being used. And it is plausible that a running toilet would generate quantities of
yes.
this amount.
Yes.
So it is plausible that this could be the solution that fixes it.
Yes.
It's also based on the information we have, because sometimes when we see these appeals, they say, oh, I corrected it in June, here's my water use for July that shows it came back down. And that's when we know, okay, it's been fixed, we're done, we don't have to think about it
Okay.
anymore. So you need to keep your vigilance up to make sure that your September water bill is where you think it ought to be.
Right, well, I
But I have
have
a-
learned more than I've learned.
I have a comment on that one, and this is actually a good comment for Aquarian. If you look at the bill on 7 of 14,
Yep.
I don't pay the bill at home, so, but it now has a water usage summary. I don't know, that's new from at least the last year.
No, it's been forever.
No, I have bills back here that don't,
I've been taking pictures of mine and sending them in.
really, that have this little arrow up or down?
I've seen
Yeah,
mine
they
for
did,
years.
yeah.
Oh,
And
the
year over-
decrease, upgrade?
Yeah.
No, yeah, that little circle might be new.
Yeah, that's new.
They've always given you your,
The graph.
But the
thing.
graph-
No, not the graph, I'm talking about
Yeah.
underneath.
The arrow.
The arrow, and it's saying that you're using either more or less than the previous year.
Well, just meant you had to look
I hate
at the,
simplifications like that, I'm a graph guy.
I like the graph. You just have to look at the first one and the last one, Bob,
Okay.
and see the difference. Right?
I'm giving kudos to Aquarian on that one.
You
To
like
try to
graph.
make it
No,
easier for people that don't like graphs.
yes, so, all right. So, anyway, if we go back to page 2 of 14,
Thank you for your patience.
Sure.
Mrs. Guglielmo
Yes.
is asking for a adjustment of $1,000.
What do you think of the adjustment?
No,
Okay.
I'm
Yep,
giving you my opinion of that.
okay.
My opinion of that is kudos to her because she's assuming some of the responsibility.
Okay.
And I would like this to be the start of the homeowners
Well, not-
assuming some of the
Not if you
responsibility.
look at 2016, and 979, 16. It's a blend between the two.
I think it started quite a ways back there.
But 16 was
Yeah, but
an excessive year.
2016,
The big jump is between September and August of 17.
I'm with you though.
Yeah.
I will
What was
say
that?
I'm with both of you. The historic record,
It's
good
a
ways we don't
balance.
have a lot of
Yep.
detail on. And I'm with you also in that
Shared
the
responsibility.
the extended time that it took to realize that something didn't seem right. The ratepayer bears some responsibility there. Because the water, in fact, did go down the sewer.
We paid for
And it did go to Stanford, and we did pay for it, to be clear. So,
So Bob, do I sense a motion?
But I have one other question of the board. Because where is it?
because is that going to affect you?
Because
Right.
at the time, as of right now, I know she was talking about sending in a check, so I don't know the exact balance. But there is also included, since this is so far removed from the billing date of October of last year, there's $213.57 of interest.
Oh.
And I'm just putting it out there.
We say, yeah, we usually say, from the date the appeal is made, interest is stayed until we come to the, yeah, but we have the ability to waive the interest if we so chose.
So,
Do you want to split that proportionally, the interest, with what we're waiving? Interest only on the 779.75, not the 1779, if you gave her 1,000 back?
sure.
So it's like 80, yeah.
So that's,
It'd be about $105.
You're waiting for a motion.
I'm guessing, Bob. You're gonna nail it though.
What is our interest rate? When we charge interest?
so,
Isn't that a
Tax
key?
assessor.
That's a key
Yeah.
Well,
piece of
depends-
data for this
depends on how you
calculation.
do it. If you're
Oh.
doing it, or if you're just doing it.
If you're doing it without knowing the interest rate, okay.
You don't need to know the interest rate you're using.
Okay.
It's a proportion of the total.
Okay.
Yes, I got
Yeah.
your question.
Yeah. It's like,
And it's not related to the date and the time of the
it's
accrual.
about 42% or 45%.
I don't understand how you can do interest that way.
But no, it's 1779.
Right.
They're gonna charge you like 10,000 off that. It's the difference between 1,000 and 1779. So that's about.
But don't you still need to know your interest rate?
No,
You could.
You know the total interest.
You could?
Well, look, if you want to,
There must be people at home.
I'd like to get a loan from you, Craig. Let me talk to you about my interest rate.
It's
I haven't
negotiable.
said anything. I'm just waiting for
People
what
borrow
Bob's
money
going
on a
to say.
weekly basis.
all right.
So what did you do?
Am I close to 100?
What did I do? I figured out the percentage,
Of the two numbers?
Yeah.
And then multiplied it through?
yeah.
Was it less than 105? Was it like $95? What do we?
Can someone please tell me what the. a
What the
potential
final
motion
number is?
Make a motion. Make a motion, get it in there.
Okay, so,
Consensus.
the motion is to reduce the bill to $873.72. Hopefully I did it
I
right.
thought that went the wrong way.
What do you mean?
Oh, what are we doing with the?
It's more than 1,000 because we're taking some of the interest, we're taking 56.
He's got the
We're taking
779.
56% of the interest
Exactly
off
back to
because
the
that
interest,
is
which was
the-
90.
out of the 1,000.
And Kathy
So I
Larkin
was
did
wrong,
get
108,
payment
98.
today, 'cause she
The 219,
emailed me.
right?
Yeah, no, I saw that at the
You
bottom.
apportioned that too.
So-
They'll take that into account.
So you're saying the new bill should be 873.72 or reduced?
Well, if it's 873, then we're effectively waiving any interest charges.
Yeah.
No, it's 973.70. Did I say 8?
Yeah.
Sorry,
973.
I can't read.
That's less than $1,000.
No, because it's
Are we
with
waiving
interest,
any interest?
some of the interest. Or that's the way that he was asking me.
Yeah.
I have no problem doing it one way or the other. I'm just
Someone
calculating.
is going to have to explain the math so that everybody here understands what happened. As I don't understand it. I don't know if you understand it.
I'm willing
I'm
to
not
just take
sensitive.
$1,000.
Well, but is it
The question was-
$1,000 on the bill or the $1,000 on the bill plus the interest?
Do we have the ability
Yeah.
to waive interest?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to make a motion?
I make a motion, we'll split the difference to make it $995, that her bill is now $995.
Why?
Why not?
Waiving the interest?
Waiving the interest, $995.
Well, we're sucking it all
Just clean it
in.
up, clean it up.
The interest is waived,
$995 total.
and the new bill is
From
$995.
$1779.75.
Okay.
I would second.
I understand.
Okay.
$995.
Yep.
So you actually get more than $1,000 back because we're waiving the interest, if you follow. Mrs. Whalen,
No,
we haven't voted yet.
I
I just
know.
want to make sure you understand what we're talking about, because it was a little confusing for me.
wait a minute. It's,
Wait.
the bill with the interest is, I want to say it's 1993 something or other, so it's not, you're just,
But yeah, we're ended up waiving no interest. You said it was 237.
maybe I screwed it up.
Bill is
It's entirely possible.
177,975.
Give me a second.
I think $993.
Look,
Right next to it.
this is,
Yes.
no, but guys, I appreciate
It's
the
19
desire to do something here, but we need to do it
With the interest, it's
with reasoning and approach,
1993.
not just
With
with
it.
a dart. Yep, okay.
Well, but you didn't even, we didn't give her the $1,000. We could give less than that.
So,
I
walk
probably
through it.
added instead of.
Please walk through it one step at a time.
I probably added instead of
Please walk
subtracting.
through it one step at a time.
Okay. So it's 1993.32 minus 1,000 goes down to 993.32, and then that percentage, the percentage of 1,000 over 1779.75 is 56%. So we're going to also take away 56% of the interest. Okay, so that number times the interest, which is 213.57, is 120. So we'll take, all right, so it's going to be
So another 100.
993.32 minus 120
Okay.
is
that's
873.32. Sorry,
Okay, thank you.
sorry.
You were right the first time, because that's the first number you said.
Oh, okay.
873.32.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you understand what we,
Yes.
At least
Okay.
in concept.
All right,
All right,
have a
new
motion.
Bob, that's Bob's motion. We'll make it Bob.
I'll make a motion that we amend the bill and the interest to, or no, just the bill now, to 873.32.
Which, in effect, waives the interest.
Yes.
If we get the 877. So basically, you're saying.
And they'll take into
The
account what
new
you
bill is
said.
873.32, and
Yes.
we'd like the tax assessor to waive all of the interest.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on the motion? Do you understand where we ended up?
Yes,
All
I
those in
do.
favor?
And
All right.
I
Thanks for the hard
appreciate
work
it
there.
very much.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
made a mistake there.
And I hope you got it.
I
Let
do,
me
and
fix
then
the leak.
they'll just send me something in the mail
Yeah,
then.
you're supposed
Yes.
to communicate with the tax assessor, and you'll get a new bill.
Okay. Thank you.
Tax collector, not assessor, sorry.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
5B,
Sorry about
4
that,
Oakland
guys.
Terrace, Stephen Mistretta. Discussion and action.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi.
Introduce yourself for the record, please.
I'm Pardon? Stephen Mistretta, 4 Oakland Terrace.
Thank you for your patience.
You're welcome.
So, the nature of your appeal is irrigation charges to establish a lawn.
The 2018 bill
Yes.
was double the amount of 2017.
Okay.
And actually triple the amount of 2016.
Okay.
And shame on me, I didn't even realize how the sewage bill was calculated. And I've owned this my home since 2005. I just thought it was a flat rate across town. So when I get the bill, I'm like, that's what the bill is. But I was at here and in the sewer department, and the person that was looking at the billing, she says, "How come why'd your bill triple?" I said, "What do you mean? I just figured the town raised rates or something." She said, No. So that's why I was like, I don't know what would have caused the water increase going through the sewage. So I looked through the billings, and that 3-month period where you're reading the consumption, the water consumption, or 5-month period. The only thing I could put together that made any sense to me was, and I have a small property, so it's not, it's probably like 500 square feet, front yard and backyard combined. But anyway, the only thing I could come up with was I brought in 14 yards of topsoil to finally establish a decent lawn. It was like about 6 inches deep across everything. And that was, I brought in early November.
Of 17.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I seeded it and just proceeded to water it a lot, hoping that I could establish it before a frost or whatever, which is, in retrospect, I should have just waited probably till spring because it didn't establish that well. But
This was
I just
November
couldn't.
of 2018?
17.
17, which is during the time period that you're reading the water consumption. Because
At 13, 15.
Because internally in the house, and I'm handy, and I was like, okay, did the hose break going to the washing machine? No. The toilet leaks, or needs to be repaired, or drippy faucets, or any changes. I couldn't come up with anything that would, in my own mind, say, oh yeah, of course I use more water.
Okay.
I just couldn't, it was like just nothing, there wasn't any changes in the household. So then I thought, well, then I've got to look externally, and that's the only thing I could come up with. And honestly, I don't know if I'm correct. I just saw that it is what it is.
I look at these, and I look at them
A lot.
Good, because you might have better insight on this than I do.
I've probably looked at it 5 times and tried to find something, and I can't. I absolutely can't. But I do see a big jump from the
If you look at-
16-17 year
Yes.
to 17-18, and it's pretty much stayed there, except for 1 month, February of 19, where maybe you were away.
I don't recall.
But other than that, they're all double digit.
Do you have anything beyond February 19?
February of 19 is the one month in the last
Yeah.
2 years where it was not double digits.
Okay, but you don't have anything beyond, like you don't have March 19 or April or?
Oh, yeah, no, I have right up to June of
Okay.
19.
Mr. Mistress.
Okay, so you're saying those are
No,
as
no,
high?
this is something that Tamara,
Yeah, why don't you come take a look at
generates.
this particular document, and we'll give you a copy of it if you need it. So our staff has access to the water company
Right,
record.
yeah.
So this is actually every month for the last 5 years.
Right.
And so, yeah, we do see, say, second quarter of this 16, the end of 16, your water usage is very low. It's during the month. This is.
no,
when you say you
and
have
here is where he,
topsoil delivered.
this is where he put in the soil.
17, 18.
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
it's November.
Okay, that's
17.
correct.
That 13 is where he puts in the
The
soil.
numbers after, they're throughout the winter, they're all consistent, throughout the next year, they're all consistent.
I'm getting there.
It's 28.
So it didn't say unless there's a jump, and then it goes back down, so it
What?
was all year, we did that month that got caught up in the numbers. So there is something interesting going on, it could be some weird team leak right in the shower head or toilet or something, there could be some weird thing.
Have you tried the thing where you put the dye in the bowl and see if it, in the toilet bowl and see if it gets
Well,
diluted?
actually, I'll give that a go, but because I don't hear it But that could still be seeping through, right?
And
Yeah.
only because I'm anal, if you actually sit there and look at it, and you look at the edge, you can,
So this is a water conservation kit?
Do you need a formal report back on whether
You determine if the valves, like, so like
Bob would want that.
You can pull a shower head off, you can put this thing on the shower head, it could be the valve on the shower head that's putting a drip, everything, and then there's the water dye in your tank, and a little
You got-
explanation.
You got the Easter egg gifts.
We do, it's, honestly, we should have one of those all the time.
the other thing, and this is just to kind of maybe ease it a little bit in your mind, is your 17 bill, if it were calculated the same way as the 18 bill and the 19 bill, instead of it being 465.36, it would be 505.25.
Which goes rate increases since then. yeah.
So you had one of those anomaly things where when they changed it, it went up because you had a.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
So that is-
it didn't actually,
Been higher.
yeah, it actually.
No,
doesn't-
that was one of the ones you're using as a reference. It was
Right.
$40 higher, so it's not.
So,
I look at these things and.
Yeah, well, that's why when I submitted the letter, I was kind of like, this is my best guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I would try the
Yeah.
toilets because it doesn't,
Yeah.
remember, if it's doing a quarter of a gallon a minute, there's 440 minutes in a day and 168 hours in a week, so it adds up.
So, I guess what we're saying is, there's nothing that jumped out at us in the data to give us proof to grant a sewer user fee appeal. It's not to say that maybe there's something going on that you should investigate. Your numbers are high-ish. How many people do you live in the house?
4.
Did you always have 4 even back to 14, 15? It just seems like the general water use has gone up, like the leak.
Well, this account is, I think, only goes back to 2016,
Okay.
doesn't it?
We have it back to.
We have it back
Before that.
to
That would
The
be,
14, 15.
I wasn't in the house at the time,
Oh, got it.
so I was renting it out.
But your family's been there for 3 or 4 years?
To 2016
Yeah,
to
okay.
date,
Oh,
yeah.
that,
Yeah,
it did
still
go
an
up
increase,
then.
but yeah.
So what was it prior to my building then? It's less
It
or
was
more?
less. It looks like they
Less.
were using less water.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
they were in the single
Yeah.
digits
Single?
of 100
All
cubic feet per month.
Okay.
Mostly.
All right.
And
so,
I honestly, I don't remember if the house.
We're just-
We're gonna-
Vacant and all that kind
We're
of
gonna make
stuff.
a motion just to close the case for now. It doesn't
Good, no, I appreciate
eliminate your
it.
ability to come back if you find something.
Especially make a motion to close the case.
Yeah,
on that.
deny the appeal.
Table it, deny the appeal.
Yeah, okay.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of denying the appeal? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Commissioners, appreciate your time.
Yes.
All right, item
Good luck finding it.
5C, 50 Ledge Road. Oh, did you want to see this chart, by the way? Do you want this 5 years worth of data?
I love the chart as much as you do. And that was new with the arrows going up and down, I just noticed.
Yeah, I thought it was, but they shot me down again.
No, you're right.
No, you might be
You don't
right
need to give Bob
about
any
that.
validation.
The graph is always in there.
5C, 50 Ledge Road, Christina Brunetti, discussion and action. Now you're an expert, you've seen how it
I
works.
know, right?
Please announce yourself for the record.
Well, I guess you guys have a letter, right?
Yes.
I'm Christina Brunetti Cologne, the business director for
Sorry.
Atria Senior Living at 50 Ledge Road.
Okay, question.
So this is from my corporate office that I signed.
All right.
So basically, we have 200 communities around the country. Our head office is in Kentucky. They have a third-party administrator that handles all our taxes, our utilities, all that sort. So we don't handle that inside at Atria Dairy, and all those bills get sent to a third-party administrator. Apparently, my company in Louisville told me that the bill was going somewhere else. That's why it wasn't paid. So they've paid it off and wanted to get the interest waived or credited on the next
Okay.
tax bill.
Question. When the address was changed from Phoenix to North Dakota,
I wouldn't know. I
okay,
only
you don't
work in
know
that
if
building.
they,
I don't handle.
you don't
all
know if the onus is, if they said they changed the address or not.
Right.
Okay.
I would not know that.
All right.
Craig, why is this-
Also, there was no, when someone doesn't pay,
Hold on, there's too much conversation, one at a time.
How much?
when someone doesn't pay,
Yes.
you would think that I would have gotten a bill at 50 Ledge Road going, hey, the bill hasn't been paid, but I didn't get it even to be able to forward it to my corporate office so that they could forward it to third parties. So I don't know who changed the address, when it changed. I'm just here representing.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
So Peter asked me, why is this our problem? Which is a fine question. I think we have the authority over all charges related to the sewers. So if someone were to say to the tax collector, oh boy, can we waive the interest charges? It was a mistake, it was an honest mistake, and we have a break. The tax collector doesn't have the authority to do so. He sends them to us.
And as soon as we found out that I guess our corporate office realized that some bills weren't getting paid, they immediately called you guys, wrote a check.
And the third-party accounting firm is saying, well, it wasn't us, you guys didn't tell us that, you didn't give us the bill to pay, so it's not our fault.
I don't know anything that was going on. Corporate just said,
Okay,
"Come here to the meeting."
I read all the letters.
Yes.
All right, the first issue is when they received their 2017 sewer bill. It was a two-part bill, the same way as our real estate is. So they actually received both parts of that. So I will make the motion right now off of that, they got that bill. So the interest on that, I would say definitely doesn't get expunged. The second one is more of a gray area, but the first one there, they actually got a bill. They just didn't.
They read it wrong.
No, they paid the first half and then the second half just, so they received it, in advance, but they did receive it. The same way we get, the real estate halves. Theirs are so large that they got the sewer in halves. Then the address was changed and they didn't get the second one. So there's interest on that one. But if you read the very end of Kathy Larkin's letter, state statutes say that the onus is on the property owner, not on the town.
And they knew they were paying sewer tax because they paid.
This is their business. They're basically the financial company for.
You think you'd have a spreadsheet that said, in these years, we paid a sewer user fee.
There's no spreadsheet.
And we paid half.
This is a company that has 250 buildings across the United States and Canada, so this is not small. Like, I'm not sitting there saying, this bill is not getting called.
But-
So they're just asking.
Somebody's doing it.
Right, they're just asking if this could be done, not putting any onus or fault on anyone. They just realized something wasn't done. They paid the $43,000 as soon as they realized we weren't paying, and paid a full check on 8/19. So we should have already had it deposited.
All right, does everybody have a full understanding of the facts of the field? Anybody have any more questions for Atria's representative? Does anybody have a motion?
This reminds me of a person who came before us from the library, where they claimed they didn't get the bill, and yet they had paid prior bills. And it seems to me that accountants, kind of know they're paying sewer bills. And, I presume that your accounting keeps records by the building too.
I'm not sure how they handle that in
Well,
Louisville, Kentucky. It's a third-party administrator that does it. I'm just here to represent them. I didn't even know I had to speak today. I'm sorry. They just said, hey, go there and sit and listen.
I give less forgiveness to businesses than people. That's all
Well,
I-
people only have about 10 bills to pay at the house, so you should know what you're paying.
Yeah.
Businesses have more
Businesses,
accounting.
they have
So-
professionals, I
Right.
presume, that pay, and they know
Are you
they're
getting
paying
to a motion?
sewer bills, and,
Bob's got a motion.
go ahead, Bob.
Okay.
Share the class.
The 2017 tax interest, which is $3,200.47, of which they did receive a bill for. I will make a motion that to not expunge it,
Deny the appeal
To
for
deny the appeal.
2017 sewer user
which is
charge
the,
interest.
which is the
Okay,
3,200.
We'll take it one at a time, that's good. So that's one.
Yes.
We have a second on that one.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that one's clear.
Yes.
All right, now we have another bill to take care of.
This one would more go with the state statute, which, did you guys see that one?
I saw the state statute, the fact that they've been paying sewer bills ongoing, and then suddenly it stops. I mean, I think that would be a red flag to an accountant.
Right.
I do accounting.
And, yeah.
And it would
And
be a red
to
flag.
Darien, and the town of Darien, trying to figure out where to send, why aren't we paying and sending a collection agency after us as well, right?
But they paid the property tax bill.
Yeah.
Yes, but that could be a different company. Again, I don't work in corporate. I know that they have different
Oh, so
outside
they-
third-party vendors
We,
that handle.
we don't know
paying.
that they paid the property
They pay
tax bill.
utilities.
Well, this is a heads up for them too.
Yeah.
We don't know that they-
So they have third-party vendors that pay the utilities and third-party vendors that pay the taxes, so they're,
But I think the
and
way
then
that-
other ones I do inside.
I think the way the tax collector works is they have one address to send bills. You can't ask them to send one bill one
Right.
place and one bill
I
another.
can't tell
That's,
a
that's
A company
not-
with
That's
100,000
not fair.
employees.
So, Bob, I'd like to even amend that we just not waive this interest at all.
Well, no, I mean, so you're saying the 2018
Well,
interest.
We just make a separate decision.
Separate
Yeah.
motion, 2018, we don't waive it.
Okay. So
I'll
we-
second that.
Okay, so we have a motion, we've already decided on the 2017 interest charge to deny that appeal, and the motion on the table is for the 2018 interest charge. There's a motion and a second to deny the appeal. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of denying the appeal?
Do we have a second on that?
I did.
One, two, or
Susan,
one, two.
second, yeah.
That was unanimous.
Thank you for
But it
coming.
was worth a try.
Yeah.
Tell them it was worth a try, but
I'm gonna tell them. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was their second bite at the apple.
They're
I think they
lucky I
tried the
didn't
tax
see her
collector
as
and
well.
then came to us.
It's not bad.
tell them you had to sit here for.
Yeah.
But think about what you learned tonight.
Right? I learned so much about sewer.
Okay, now it's only the people at home watching, trying to figure out if we're a professional board or not.
We were good till I did that
Well, I think
mathematical error.
that the workers watch us too.
That's true. Hi, Tamara.
The sewer.
Oh, of course they do.
Department.
Item number 6.
Probably in their contract.
This one hopefully should be easy and straightforward, please.
I'll move it.
Which is the 2020 Darien Sewer Commission, I'm going to separate you two. 2020 Sewer Commission regular meeting schedule.
It looked fine to me.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm with it. I like it. I think it's good not to have the first day of the year meeting. So the
Or like-
Yeah, no more meetings after long weekends, apparently.
Although September 1st might be.
Yeah, fine, I just got-
July 7th could be after a long weekend.
Yeah.
Ridiculous about it.
I'm missing,
What?
You want this?
oh, there it is, I found it. Okay, good. Good. I'm good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's
I'll make
make
a-
go ahead.
Make a motion to accept the
Schedule.
regular meeting schedule for 2020 that is on the handout.
Second.
All those in favor?
Right?
All right, item number 7,
Speed, efficiency.
well drilling.
Wow.
What is that?
Drilling a well.
The INI.
INI study well drilling without scope approval.
That's it. Self-explanatory.
Groundwater level well.
I understand INI and I understand without scope approval. How many wells do they want to drill?
Right now, we're talking about one.
And how much does it cost?
Well, they were supposed to give me that, so I could present that to you today, but I don't have that number right now.
And the reality is, if we authorize work and perform work before the DEP say, we will reimburse you, we will not get reimbursed for that work.
I think this is such a small fee in comparison to their overall.
I don't disagree.
That I don't want to miss the fall window.
You would like to get started.
And we have been bugging the DEP for approvals. I've seen the emails from Arcadis. I speak to them every other week to kind of rattle their cage up there, but I don't want to annoy them. And some are on vacation in August, they're just getting back, so I told them I would hope to get your approval tonight with the anticipation I'd wait till the end of this week. We shoot one more email out there, see if they would give us a blessing, and then we'll schedule it next week. I don't want to miss this window and have some of the folks that are watching us watch us.
Ed's asking, do I get a motion?
One question.
I mean,
I mean, is there any limit?
I mean, they're doing groundwater monitoring.
I
They're not gonna go
trust,
down to 400 feet. They're gonna be down at maybe 20?
I am willing to trust Ed's judgment on what he's willing to pay for. He's a pretty frugal fellow.
I'll tell you, if that number comes back in higher than I really want to pay, or think it's a little,
Then you'll wait.
you'll be hearing from me next month.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
You need a motion?
I make a
I would love a
motion that we
Be digging well that hand.
approve the II study, well drilling without scope approval.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8, 17 Freight Court. Any further
Nobody's here.
discussion on
I can just tell you quickly, the only reason it's a separate item not under superintendent's report is because we did make contact with the attorney, and we didn't know, he was saying he might show up. Our last communication with him was 8/27. We gave contact information to him for Gerald Nielsen, so he can initiate, we also provided him with maps, so he can initiate going and getting the easement. Haven't heard from him since, and obviously he's not here.
that? Thank you for the update on number 8. Moving on, superintendent's report.
Yes.
They're being done, move on. Oh, sorry.
You can't be the one to rush it.
That's what, the statement I make in the firehouse, they're being done,
That's the irony of it all.
Superintendent's report A?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not rushing anyone.
We
I don't ask questions.
decided to move on from the low bidder. We're going to the second bidder.
Okay.
Upon further examination, it turns out that the low bidder does not have didn't give us the comfort with the equipment that he has specifically. He does not have in his possession equipment for bypassing, which is an integral part of the project. So we're going to move on.
And a brief reminder, that is for cleaning which section of sewer?
Leroy, Post Road, Leroy, up to and including a small portion of Mechanic, and also Squab Lane, by way of Brook Street, where we know that there's some heavy flows.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes through Brook Street.
Okay. So we get a television and a cleaning. Okay.
Yeah. Seagate Pump Station, in this meeting, before the meeting, I emailed Attorney Maslin, who's representing both YMCA and Eversource. And of course, expressed frustration, haven't heard from him in a couple months. And it turns out that he responded while I'm in this meeting that he will have the bank's approval by the end of next week. He finally got something out of them.
Okay.
So that's new. Ed hadn't even heard that. I just got the email today as I was sitting here.
Maybe he's.
I'm also told that we have installed a new gas line for the propane. We will order the control panel soon, and we expect that the generator will be installed, our new generator that we own and possess will be installed by the 10th of September.
That's cool.
That's it for that.
Okay.
Heather Lane and Lake Drive meters are live, as Ed explained earlier. He's already getting numbers and some useful data.
What date did they go live approximately?
Excuse me?
How long have they been live?
I'm going to say the second week in August.
2 or 3 weeks?
August 15th or something?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I would say halfway through August.
Okay. And we want to do 2 or 3 months before we make an attempt at reconciliation.
Yes. And I think we usually start that process in October, November
Okay.
to balance the books. I'm probably can get them to wait till December to do that, but we'll see.
Okay. So we'd have September, October, November, and look at it based on the assumptions last year,
Yeah. And then,
prorate, and see where we're at.
and we'll do it again the following year too, to make sure our assumptions are correct.
Okay.
And Lake Drive is now operational as well?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Lake Drive is now operational. There was some
Yeah, they're
issue with
both.
the electrical?
Yeah.
The electrical and the height and the bollards
Yeah.
and all that, you were having a meeting.
I got that all ironed out and installed, the meters there,
Okay,
good to
good.
go.
You like it?
Do I like what? My new meter?
Yeah.
You wanna name it?
Nobody lives on Lake Drive.
I think
I live on, I walk by it every day.
I think it needs a very
Yours
loud
actually doesn't
alarm.
Turn down.
Is that a
Your
Flaherty
sewer goes
meter?
down, wait.
No, I mean, I
Do
go
we
by
need
the
to give it
installation
names?
every day.
Should we call that the Flaherty crossing?
Oh, a little label maybe, a little dedication ceremony.
Anything else?
We do have new business,
Okay.
What's the nature of new business?
2/3 majority.
What is
I'll
the
make a
nature-
motion.
What is the nature of new business?
Nature of the business is sewer connection fee, assessment, pro rata share, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And
I'll make a
also,
motion to go into new business.
there's a couple of items, you want to do it together?
Mine will, mine take maybe 2 minutes. Darren's gonna go first.
I'm sorry, wait, what? Your new
Two
business.
that I have are very, very quick.
You had about
Minute-
new
2 minutes.
business.
Okay, so before we go into new business, I'm gonna set some ground rules.
What are you looking at? She said it.
That
I thought you were looking for a motion.
if we're talking about connection fees if we talk about connection fees under new business, it is only to determine what information we need to have a discussion on connection fees at the next meeting.
My issue is one property in particular.
Okay. We have a motion to go into new business. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? We are in new business, Ed.
The floor is yours.
Jump right in.
Okay, here I go. Got a call from a realtor. Everybody knows her. Very popular realtor, Nancy Delk. She's representing either the seller or the buyer, I don't know which, doesn't matter, 64 Old Kings Highway South. This happens to be the property in between the Locust Hill intersection and Andrews Drive intersection, which falls neatly in the so-called Westmere development. Okay? So there's the rub. That's basically it in a nutshell. There is no problem with this property accessing the sewer. As a matter of fact, it's just about in the front yard. They won't even have to go out on the road. As far as I can tell, the sewer comes from Andrews Drive, crosses Old Kings Highway South, heads down towards the bridge to go under I-95. And that's where the property is. It's the first house.
Joe Kelly's old
Yeah.
house?
Not Joe Kelly, across the street,
Oh, on the other side.
on the highway
The
side.
antique home.
Miss O'Brien.
Highway.
Oh.
So-
It's on the highway, it's the first
Yeah.
house on the highway
It's an
side.
old house.
Yes, yeah.
467?
I can't
No,
tell you-
64.
60.
It's a white house.
Yeah, it's
I've
old.
been,
It's an
I,
antique. It's-
Okay,
Yeah.
so we just learned about this.
okay.
We bring it to you because, to refresh the sewer commission's memory, we were involved in a lawsuit that we won and paid 170, 200-ish, something like that.
For the Westmere pump station?
When we finally settled with Westmere. It is my understanding that we own that system. It is my understanding that we have no further involvement with the developer whatsoever, except if they want to connect one of their sewers, lots to our sewer.
Those houses have sold, the lots up the hill. I
They
think
were?
I think they sold recently.
We had some recent inquiries, but I hadn't heard about the property transfer.
Thought they did, I'm
That
not
is
sure.
not
Interesting little piece of property.
Yeah, it is.
related to that. Those properties, I know, were part of the original development and won't be assessed or asked for a program.
Because they're already hooked up, right? They already had stubbed up on each lot.
They're already laterals to every
Yeah.
property,
Yeah.
yeah. And they were already a part of the original development, so we were never gonna collect anything and give it to the developer. I assume the same holds true now. We're certainly not gonna collect money for ourselves,
Right.
but nevertheless,
What's
I
the,
guess I'm looking for direction.
On what?
Yeah.
How do we determine, do you want to charge them? I assume the answer
Are
is
they,
yes.
they're looking to connect to the sewer?
They're looking to connect, and I would assume that
it's
we
into
bought a
this
sewer for
new
a
sewer.
very high number.
But that's what we do.
Excuse me?
We don't buy sewers, we take them over.
We build sewers sometimes.
We took it over, but in effect,
I'm trying to remember these
you
details.
paid.
Well, I know all about
A
West
lot.
Point. I remember the lawsuits and
Well,
cases,
I know.
just litigation.
I'm just
I know
trying.
you went through hell.
We resolved it. Let's go.
This is different than the crane issue.
But there
that
were
we
so
heard earlier,
many,
because this one has not been paid.
it was getting out of the lawsuit, it was effectively winning the lawsuit.
Yeah,
was-
it went on
we
for a decade.
Ended up owning an easement,
Yep.
and a pump station, and, it's, and it was a fraction of the cost of actually doing all the improvements.
Yeah, the numbers are, we paid about,
Yeah, it's on my left.
within 50 grand. We paid 200,000, they wanted 750.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that. Right.
Okay. I trust his memory better than mine. He says 175. So I'll do whatever you guys want. Right now, I'm just looking for direction.
I'm not gonna look, I appreciate where Bob's coming from, and I'm not opposed to considering modifying how we do things in the future, but to make up a number when we don't have a regulation and we have no agreement that says this is what we're gonna do
We
with
have a
this
history-
sewer,
we have a history of not
I just
doing
don't think it's fair to say, make up a number. I appreciate
Okay. If I could just add,
it. Please,
in this case, we do have a developer's agreement.
okay,
In my opinion, the judge didn't look at it closely enough.
okay.
But there was a developer's agreement, it was very clear how much everybody was supposed to pay. In my view, your options are 0, you certainly could do that if you wanted to. On the other end of the spectrum,
What's the number of the developers agreement?
I'd have to look at that.
Did
Because I don't know
did
what
the
the
judge
total
affirm,
cost is.
did the judge affirm there was no developers agreement in the litigation?
All right, I think I know where I'm going with
Yeah.
this. Wayne Fox.
Wayne Fox.
Do we own the system? Do they own the system? Who gets the right to a connection?
We-
fee?
no,
Is there-
we own the system.
We own it. It's just it costs money to litigate.
During litigation, everybody agreed, it didn't really matter, it didn't make any sense to argue about the affidavit of cost because it was so high, they were never going to be able to recoup all of their money. That was our argument from the start, and it stands today. The cost that they spent, there just wasn't enough people for them to
That was
ever
their
get their money
choice.
back.
That was
because-
their choice.
That was their choice, and the sewer commission is not allowed to, assess is the wrong
Right.
word, but you are not allowed to exceed the apparent benefit. So everybody agreed that the apparent benefit would be exceeded. That is one option. The apparent benefit could be the high end of your spectrum, 0 could be the low end, or something in between. I mean, certainly when we did the Brushy Hill Sewer Extension and we connected into the Westmere Sewer,
Did you pay a connection?
we paid them, we wrote them a check for, I believe it was $25,000, and they returned it and sued us. So if you're looking for a number, I mean, 25 grand is about
What you thought was fair at the time
Well, who are we,
for a connection fee.
what is the issue?
Right.
Where did it start? I mean, we're
Sorry.
trying to.
Hold on one second.
But
$25,000 was what the town thought was fair at the time when we did the Andrews Drive extension.
the Brushy Hill and Andrews Drive extension, and we connected in.
We tried to say to the developer, we think 25,000 is what we owe you.
Yeah.
So we thought that was fair at the time.
Yeah.
And they said that it goes
Yeah.
through something.
I'm not sure about the exact number, 25,000, 26,000,
Okay.
someplace in there.
Why is this being raised? Someone wants to connect?
Somebody wants to connect now. It was bound to happen.
So we need to do a little bit more homework, it sounds.
Yeah,
I come back with some
I'm
numbers to ballpark what
But
your thoughts are right now.
we can't act like we're the developer. We didn't expend the funds to
But
build
I
it.
think we need to bring you more facts on what is owned by us and maybe an interpretation by Wayne before we come back.
I mean, we
So-
do,
We now own
we
the
do
Yeah.
pay for extensions and then assess properties that are the beneficiaries of those extensions. So we do that.
Sure, but whoever the owner is here is bearing that cost of bringing it
Yes.
to the sewer. They're covering all that.
Yeah.
They're covering net cost is zero when we add a customer. Do we make money off the customers? Do they help pay the other?
Well,
That's,
we're not gonna make money off anyone.
But if we paid money purchasing the system,
we did?
Anyway, yes, so I'm with Ed.
Okay.
I have no idea what to do.
I'm gonna bring you more facts.
And, yeah, it is hard to make a decision when you hear about it the first time and you have nothing to look at.
Yeah, I mean, among other things, I mean, how many possible connections is our decision
Yeah.
gonna affect?
Yeah, that's which is also very good. So, do your homework, you have to talk to the town attorney about his opinions on the,
Town attorney, do we own the sewer?
whatever his
So,
opinions might
let's
be
do it.
on the resolution to confirm your assumptions, on the
Okay.
settlement, to confirm your assumptions.
But you might also, if we don't own it, who does?
Ed,
We own it.
We own it.
We're moving on.
I'm sure we own it.
Ed's
Next
hungry
one.
and wants to see his family.
I was gonna finish it for you folks, but I did, this is the first blush at the
Oh.
flag ordinance.
nice.
It is mimicked after Stanford's.
Okay.
And, in need of, some TLC, I guess, but.
We will receive this
You don't have to read
and
it.
review it. Is there anything you want to highlight for us before we leave the room?
Yeah, I agree.
I tried to keep it simple.
I waited.
It's 8 pages, and I tried to keep it very, very simple and straightforward.
Everybody should be able to understand what the requirements are.
The last page on the back, you'll see it's highlighted in yellow. Those are the fines and penalties. I think we should focus, when we're done with this, this is the important part for me.
Okay,
This is the teeth of this whole thing.
got it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that's number one. Number two, it's sad for me to let you folks know this, but our sewer clerk, Tamara,
Oh,
has been promoted and will be moving on to planning and zoning.
That's a,
Oh.
that's a
As an
promotion?
administrative officer.
she doesn't know what she's getting into.
If you see Jeremy, you want to give him a little, noogie or something?
What does he owe you? What is the trade? Did you get anything in the trade?
I get to go and interview more people and
Find another town.
Suck another good one, but
We like Tamara.
Yeah.
She's doing a very good job.
Yeah, it's from
I
us.
want to
She
say
did a
that
great
publicly
job.
too. She has done a fantastic job
She
for
really
us,
has.
and we will miss her.
That's why I think
And we wish her all
Jeremy-
the best too in planning and zoning. That was the text from Tamara, says you got a shout out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tamara.
Thank you.
So I wanted to do that publicly, and I want to let you folks know too. that, she will be leaving us. Friday is her last day with us.
Wow.
Forewarn the next person about my phone calls. Well, I usually ask these
She
questions.
probably has you down when you're known to the new business.
Oh, yeah, I go right
She's got
to,
a Bob Bill file for the next,
I go right to voicemail. What? No, I can watch it myself, believe me.
That's why she's leaving.
We could get Bob on planning and zoning.
All right,
No, thanks.
we're done with superintendent's report, we're done with new business, we are on to item number 11.
I have to read
which is executive
24/7
session.
for that stuff.
So, we promised both Channel 79 and our recorder that when we come back from executive session, all we are going to do is adjourn, and Darren can take that down without
Yeah.
Channel 79 hanging around and without our recorder hanging around. Thank you very much.
Thank
Hope
you.
enjoyed.
Was this fun?
Yeah, of course, always fun.
What else are you going to say?
Leading question.
Do I have a motion to go into executive session? Second? Do I have a second?